Was I actually supposed to do work for this podcast, Aaron?
Well,
That's not my job.
I wrote up the intro so that it was you doing it, bud.
You think I read that?
Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry.
Good day, and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday. As always, asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Dave.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we have the joy of talking with a mentor, teacher, colleague, friend, but more importantly in this context, a poet. Paul Lutter, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm really glad to be here. And could I have said that any higher?
Yeah. We'll see really how excited you are to be here after a little bit.
Well, yeah, we're not in yet. Yeah.
Well, I wrote the intro with Dave thinking that he was going to be kicking this off before I got on the call.
Again, I don't do work. But this is not my job.
We have not clarified. Did you write a poem for us?
Oh, I wrote a poem.
Oh, good. Because I wrote a poem. I got nothing.
So this poem is called Daily. Strike the match. Observe the flame. Smell the sulfur. Seek the wax. Tilt the glass. Lower the source. Kindle the flame. Drop the fire. Hear the sizzle. Pause the moment. Waft the air. Intake the scent. Flush the toilet. Apologize. You're welcome. You're welcome. I understand pure genius. I get it. Don't worry.
Did you say this is a daily ritual?
Sure.
Okay. I thought that was in the introductory part there.
Oh, yeah. Daily is the title.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we want to explore
that one can be published? That one could be published.
I don't know, Paul. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm just trying to figure out where he would publish it. Maybe in one of those toilet paper that you unroll it. Right. I mean, it could be instructions for what to do, and it could you would make a lot of money. You would make a lot of money. And
I don't know. There have to be some pretty crappy journals out there.
Oh
my! See what I
was looking for the other word, but yeah, crappy works.
Yeah, that fits. Yeah.
Oh my!
Oh yeah. Someday, David, your kids are going to hear this podcast.
No, nobody listens to this podcast. They're never going to hear it.
Yeah, you have memorialized a moment there with such beautiful words.
I love that you are trying to be kind. For the first time ever, you're not just ripping into my terrible poetry. So thank you.
Yeah.
I will say the imagery in what you read was pretty straight. I mean, it's striking, right? Strike the match.
I was hoping to try and build it to like a meditative, I'm getting ready to be in the moment of staring into the flame and contemplating the world, and then you just hear in the background.
You're finding the beauty in the everyday routine. This reminds me of at the start of COVID, when we were all talking about 20 seconds of washing hands. Someone suggested that you can utilize that time to sing the old 100th doxology. And so it's like a routine washing of your dirty hands, and you're singing like, praise God from whom all blessings flow. I mean,
No, I don't.
Okay, well, that's where my head went there.
Or you could cite something from the Small Catechism, which would go really well with that.
Yeah.
Or the Lord's Prayer, or, I don't know.
Oh. Well, Paul, we should probably move away from whatever that was.
You're welcome.
And look at these these massive works that you have given us. What do you want to start with?
So the good poem I want to save for the end, right?
Right.
You want to hear from an actual poet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I recognize that the first poem and the last one are prose and are not brief. So I want to do a walk.
Okay. Let's
Beautiful.
do it.
Okay. Do you remember the walks we once took after dinner? Low beams, high screams through open windows of cars that sped by, ice cream trucks, ball games, a spurt of rain at the same time each night. We strolled along a sidewalk stretched, cement smeared with orange and green chalk. The flavors of Kool-Aid streaked across the sky and earth in the form of a slide into which we would glide if we didn't watch where we were going. You didn't say much then. You didn't know why. But you showed us the flowers in bloom, birds as they swooned to each to catch their dinner in the lake where you wanted to swim but couldn't. Instead, you stood under the lilac bushes, your nose up in the air. Your body burst into bliss. You couldn't help yourself, but you swayed and swirled and twirled until you fell. You motioned for me to raise you into the sky, to the flowers up above, like I first did when we met in the orphanage. Your first smile broke across your face, and I knew what grace felt like. Your hand pulled on flowers until they broke. You put them in my pocket and in Mommy's hair. I handed one to you, and you tucked it behind your ear like a pencil. You reached for it a few times and scribbled in the air. What were you writing? I didn't know. Or were you conducting? Or were you casting a spell? Or were you unlocking the mysteries of the universe? No one really knew. Maybe not even you. I remember that when you climbed out of my arms, we walked again. And this time you stopped to look at the ground. I saw why. A chalked red heart, etched against cracked tar, broken in the middle. You traced your finger against the outline in the ground. You traced it across your shirt. You traced it on Mommy's hand. When I picked you up, you traced it against my forehead.
I hate to be that guy, but that wasn't terrible.
Okay. I mean, you hate to be that guy, and yet somehow, Dave, you normally are. Right?
I'm always that guy. I'm just trying to pretend like I'm a decent person.
No, I think you are a decent person. I think you try a little hard, but I think you're a decent person.
Okay. Take us into this poem, Paul.
Yeah. So this was in the spring of 2019. In the fall of 2018, we adopted our daughter from Haiti. Mm-hmm. She was 3 at the time, and by this time she was 4. And when she came home with us, it was cold, and we didn't really spend a ton of time outside. She thinks 70 degrees is cold. And so she still thinks 70 degrees is cold. And so this was a stretch of time for about 2 months in the summer when we would almost every night go for a walk and just to go so that she could gain some familiarity with her surroundings. And so we could watch her engage with the world around her. And everything was a new kind of revelation for her, a new kind of like, wow, look at this. Now, my wife and I are older. Well, I'm older than she, and I never thought I'd get to be a dad. And so a lot of this is written in the context of my own kind of realizing the experience of being broken into bliss in a way, because getting to go on those walks and to talk and to play was quite a lovely thing. Anyway, so that's where that comes from.
So I think that's why I can understand it a little, because it sounds a lot like the energy of a 3 or 4-year-old, where it's like jumping from here to there to here to there to here to there. And yeah, I think that's just kind of fun.
It kind of reminds me of when you were in my class at Gustavus.
No.
How you jump from one thing to anyway.
Never actually paying attention, just sitting in the back, being that cool, aloof kid.
Well, you have aloof down. I mean, that's right. Anyway.
Definitely not the cool.
Yeah, so in some ways, I'm writing too against the toxic male kind of toxic masculinity stuff, and I wrote this in a poetry class. I graduated with an MFA in creative writing in the spring of 22. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what it meant to be a dad, what it meant to be a male who does not ascribe to the toxic masculinity narrative, and what that can mean, so that my daughter doesn't ever wonder, so did my dad love me, or did he even care? She'll tell you, she doesn't wonder about that.
No.
She wonders if we can go to McDonald's a lot, but she doesn't wonder about other things like this.
So I'm curious as to what makes you feel like this is a bad poem.
I knew you were going to go there.
Yes. Well, because
you have to. It's my bad poetry.
That's the show. Yeah.
I know. I'll answer you, but in a classic teacher move, what do you think? No.
You turd.
Thank you very much.
I see some fun things in here, but I want to I'm curious as to what you're looking at.
Well, so honestly, I feel for a long time I could not write my way into a prose poem to save my life. This is one of my first experiences of writing a prose poem. And so it feels a little clunky to me, and it feels like maybe I need some more, maybe to pull this apart. I feel like it's not done. I feel like there's things to kind of play with and kind of work with. So, and I thought I'd bring this because honestly, I did not think that I would ever be able to write a prose poem. A stanza poem, sure, but not this. So this is kind of my experiment, or was my experiment in the program. One of the experiments.
You say how you said how you kind of struggled to find your way into a prose poem. Is that why you think you ask the questions as kind of prompts to yourself?
That's a really interesting possibility. I had not thought of that. It could actually be really fun to kind of play with those a little more, and kind of, I also think that anybody who thinks they fully understand what their 4-year-old child is doing is sadly mistaken. I mean,
Correct.
They're just, and their thought process, if they have it, is a thing of, frankly, it is hard to discern. So I think it could be that too.
Yeah, I love those string of questions. Were you conducting or casting spells or unlocking the mysteries? That is, I knew exactly the kind of motions you're talking about. It's such a fun thing to observe.
With my 8-year-old, now I say, what were you thinking? And sometimes she'll go, I don't know. But honestly, in a more serious way, I mean, because she was in an orphanage, and because of all kind of her narrative, some of which I don't fully know, and we will probably never fully know, there are times where she'll say to me, I'll ask her, why are you crying? And she'll say, I don't know. So I know that is sacred, actually. And giving her the chance to say that is an opportunity to kind of dwell with her in the reality that we don't fully understand, but we live with kind of when it comes. So
no, I was just gonna say, on the topic of those wonderings, like the other day I was looking at my son and he was really intently trying to figure out something. Like he was just playing with a toy and he was inspecting it deeply, and really you could see the gears turning in his head. And all I could think was, is he trying to piece this apart? Is he trying to figure out like what part of this works? And then he stood up and went, I have to go potty, and just sprinted. And I feel like that is the beauty of that childlike mind where, yeah, you're conducting an orchestra or pulling apart the mysteries of the universe, but I gotta go potty. Bye-bye.
Right. And what is it about a parent who needs to ascribe those things to what might be a really basic sort of also trying to just get into the habits and the language of a child, right?
Okay. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here. Because I'm seeing two things and I'm wondering how intentional they were and why you chose to put them into a prose poem of all things. The first thing I'm seeing is the word stretched. And you have a space between each and every one of those letters. So you have literally stretched the word.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And yet I don't see that often in prose poem. I don't know. It feels like it's more like a concrete wordplay.
Yeah. So that was intentional, actually. That particular thing was intentional. And I did it because I wanted the experience of reading the poem to have to kind of shift a little bit in the engagement with it. Right? If this were straight prose poem, I mean this is something you'd see more in a stanza poem, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that when we read and when we write anything, much less poetry, it's because we have been changed or because we're trying to grapple with something or we're trying to find ourselves kind of anew. And so I still do this. There are still times where I will put things in there that don't necessarily automatically read like a prose poem.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to say about that is, there's been all kinds of, poetry is such an experimental thing. So there's all sorts of different ways to do this. And so yeah, so I thought I'd try that. I'd try that and see how that went.
The other spacing I see is broke space, maybe 4 spaces, and then free. Is that another
Are you
moment?
thinking toward the bottom, the broken in the middle?
Your hand pulled on flowers until they broke free. It looks like there's extra spaces there in that break.
Because when a kid pulls, it doesn't always happen right away. Right. So they pull and they pull and they pull and finally it happens.
Snap. Yeah.
Right.
And maybe the flower doesn't remain intact. Right.
Petals flying every direction.
Absolutely. But they'll hand you
Yeah.
the stem, like
Look what I got.
right.
We have a vase full of withered dandelions upstairs for that very reason.
Yes,
Yep.
I feel that. There you go.
What kind of Kool-Aid are you drinking?
It's orange and green.
Yeah.
Lime.
Okay.
Lime. But then orange.
Yeah.
Not often together, right? I'm glad you asked that.
It's a nice combo.
That's lovely. And I thought, what a bizarre combination. Because, frankly, when I first became a dad in these early days, it felt bizarre to me. Like amazing, stupid fun, but also really bizarre. Like I'm not as old as Abraham and Sarah were, right? But
Not quite.
not quite, but I'm up there, right? I mean, so what a bizarre thing. And so I think that I also think trying to get my footing as a parent a little bit, thus the slide there, because I mean, I still make all kinds of mistakes. And even when I don't think I make mistakes, I'm informed that I'm making mistakes. So, I mean, I don't know if the two of you can relate to that.
Yeah. Constantly and forever.
Yes, that's right. So I think what I was trying to do there is kind of point to kind of realities that are strange and bizarre and kind of trying to find my way.
No. Well, and you brought in the religious metaphor of Sarah and Abraham. And so we have to say, three church nerds here, three pastors. The last line, is
Yeah.
that meant to evoke Ash Wednesday or a baptismal anointing? We have, when I pick you up, you trace it against my forehead.
Yeah, it was baptismal, actually.
Oh.
The other piece about this is the brokenness of heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, so when I baptized my daughter, I got to baptize her. Actually, I shared the putting the water on with my wife, and
Oh,
but
Nice.
I said the words, and after the service, she had just been with us a month, so she was still 3. And after the service, she took my hand and wanted to bring me up to the baptismal font. So I went with her, and then she had me, and then she put water on my head.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of goes there. That's kind of in this as well.
right.
Yeah.
You're making it hard to make fun of this, Paul.
Yeah, how dare you?
Oh my God, bring it. Listen, I don't think this is. I mean, there's all kinds of crap. I mean, all kinds of things. I'm sure you can make fun of.
I think it's funny. I don't know. Honestly, beyond the fun things where you're experimenting with the words themselves, which I think is fun, it's just not normal within prose. Sure, you sneak in some rhymes there here and there, and you have low beams versus high screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It might meander a bit, but that's what a walk does. So,
Well, and that's who I am. I mean,
Paul meandering?
I know
Never.
it's hard to conceive. It's hard. Yeah, I mean, right. There is a meandering kind of quality to it. And yes, it's a walk and it's a walk anyway, and then it's a walk with a child, right? And
yeah.
if you follow them, you're not going a straight line.
Mm-mm. Not even close.
I think I may send this out in the world because I don't need it to be perfect, right? I mean, but I would be interested in kind of exploring. Maybe this is my entree into doing more intentional writing around, well, just the very things I've said, the notion of what it means to be a dad, a man who's not interested in holding up narratives that have done nothing to support the relationship between a father and child, or even a man in the world who doesn't care for the way that men are portrayed
No.
or the
Yeah.
way they portray themselves. So
Well, we should get to the second poem here.
Yeah, I think we have to find some ways to make fun of you. So
Yes.
Revelation it is.
yeah, well, that's good, especially since David hasn't read the poems yet. So
Yeah.
that's right. So Revelation, a snapshot, a thumbnail picture in black and white. The ancient camera drew your face upon a new page. Your eyes pierced the lens. Your mouth had just asked where you were, and where you were, and where you were, and who you were now. Your ears were pierced, perked, your arms folded. You leaned forward. You listened for your heartbeat, for love, for love, for love, for love, forever. We took our picture too when we saw your face in shades of hope. Tears ran down our faces, yet laughter spouted from open mouths, pierced, perked. Our arms were open, our lives open, our hearts open, for love, for love, for love, for love, forever. Bring it, Dave.
Well, I've got 4 criticisms.
Good.
First of all, it's slightly repetitive. Second of all, it's a little bit repetitive. And then third, it's repetitive. And fourth, I forget, but I believe it's a little repetitive.
Yeah, right, right. You said bring bad poetry, so there we. But I also want to say this, right? So this is a picture that we got in the mail over a text message or something where we got to see her for the very first time.
Oh.
Yeah, and she looked tired. I mean, I don't know how she was, but how she looked to us was tired, a little scared. It was the first day that she was in the orphanage. They snapped this picture. So one of those small, you ever see any of those pictures that are like this big by this? I mean,
yeah,
super small, and you're like, how the heck does that? I mean, yeah. So again, I'm playing. This was in 20. So this was right. I wrote this right after we brought her home. Yeah.
These kind of moments where Dave and I don't quite know how to call it bad, I think are the best, because it just shows just differing perspectives and the ways in which, like, you were looking at fatherhood. And that's an experience that both Dave and I are immediately present in. And so it's harder for us to take an objective look at that and say, oh, yeah, well, because our sentimentality is right there with you. So.
Yeah, I know. I know. So, yeah, there's all kinds of things I mean, we can talk about repetition and does it work or does it not?
Well, I think what I find really funny is this for love, which you do 4 times, so it's 4 for loves.
You can just say for love squared.
Ooh,
or cubed, tesseracted.
Whatever. I don't do numbers. I'm a poet, an essayist. I don't do numbers. Anyway,
you break it, and in different spots. So you have 1 for love, and then 3 for loves forever, and then in the second stanza you have 3 for loves, and then 1 for love with the forever. And like, honestly, I don't have any clue why, unless are you trying.
So do you want the BS answer, or do you
yes,
want
please?
The real answer is I'm not sure. The BS answer is, well, of course, 4 chambers of the heart.
Oh,
well done,
ladies and gentlemen. That is why he's a professor.
Because you're referencing the heartbeat, and the heart's opened for love, for love, for love. Ah, yeah. 4 chambers of the heart, a heartbeat. Well done, good sir.
I would be interested in, I think, to be honest, I was writing this. There was a week where my wife had to go back to work, which was lovely and scary and all kinds of like, I'm like, she eats what? She does what? Where's the, what if she doesn't? Anyway, so although I'd been watching her the whole time, when it came time for me to kind of be with her. So this was an afternoon where she was having a hard day, and she was stomping around and kind of throwing stuff around because she was 3 at the time, and she didn't know any other English at the time except for the 2 words. She knew no, and she knew damn it. The reason she knew damn it was because my wife stubbed her toe against the ottoman, and it came out, and thought that she would copy mommy. So she went behind her with a big smile. She stubbed her toe and then said, damn it. But I will say this, so then this afternoon came, and she was not having it, and she's never liked to nap. And so, when you try to get your kids to nap, you do whatever you can to get them to do it. And I did what any parent would do. I rocked her for a while, and I could feel her heartbeat up against my chest. And that's where this poem came from, was actually this kind of whatever. But I will tell you that to this day, my wife hates the story. Which is why I need it out in the world.
Exactly.
Also, my wife does not really swear, or didn't before she met me. It's true. But
that makes a lot of sense, Paul.
I thought you'd understand that. Yeah. I think that this, in some ways, I think it's I don't know. It feels unfinished to me. This was a first attempt, and I put it in a folder, and so when I was kind of rifling through, I saw this again. I'm like, I wonder if there might be something more to do with this. So that's why I brought it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that too. It feels a little unpolished, but the
Yep.
gem is there. The gem is well. So the echo of four you bring for love, and your BS answer was just perfect. But you had it actually earlier in the where you were. Your mouth had just asked where you were and where you were and where you were.
So I think what I was trying to do there, if I can remember, is that I think her heart, this is a total assumption on my part, and not one that I have the right to make, but it is the one that I wondered a lot about, was looking at that picture. What was she feeling kind of in that? In that first day, her mom had dropped her off at the orphanage, and she was trying to get used to new surroundings and not at all aware of what all this meant.
Right.
And so I was playing with that a bit. And now again, I recognize and wholly agree with those who would say, well, you're not going to know. It's not yours. You can't narrate that. It's totally fair. So I'm not narrating kind of meaning into it, but just simply what I saw in the picture. You know how when you get lost and you kind of like you have this weird look on your face and you're like, how did I get here? Where am I going? Where am I going? My sense of direction, by the way, awful, so bad. So this is not an uncommon look to me. This is in fact a look that I looked familiar. And so I wrote out of that, and just to see where that was going to, yeah. I'm not saying it's good, but it was an attempt to kind of begin to kind of explore some of that from where I could, as I could, and not trying to give it more than it.
What I love about these two styles that you've brought is the first one is a walk, and so it's a longer prose poem, slightly meandering in the middle, and then this one, Revelation. You start with a snapshot, and so the style itself is shorter. The stanzas are shorter, the lines are shorter. So like when you explore a walk, it feels like a walk when you're looking at a picture. It feels like a snapshot. I think that's kind of cool, with these two poems you've brought.
Yeah, I like to play a little bit with form, so that the language carries it, but it's also the shape gives it. There's meaning in that as well, or opportunity for revelation, for reflection.
I was just looking through, and like the fact that you have heartbeat and the repetition of for love, for love, for love, you can use that like metrically as the heartbeat. And I feel like that can kind of play through that pretty well, just kind of falling into that form and function of how the poem works. But then I guess when you look at it, where you were, that doesn't sound like a healthy heart beating.
Also, there's four forebears, right?
Wow.
North, south, east, west.
Oh, you are such a nerd.
But you love that about me. It's kind of
Yeah, that makes
well,
sense.
true. To be honest, I didn't know that when I wrote this. And like, you just write it, and then you think maybe someday I'll be on a podcast about bad poetry. I can come up with I can come up with something that would be useful. And I've been writing poetry a very, very long time, but until I got in the MFA program, did not dare to show it to anyone. Did not. And I'm right now writing an essay about that I've been asked to write about the vocation of poetry as a means to find hope. So I'm working on that, and I do see in the two poems that I've shown here, I find that I write. A parishioner of mine came up to me last week and said, "Just so you know, you're a hope bringer." And then they walked away, and I'm like, "What just happened?" Is that in fact true? So then I wonder, is that in fact true? I mean, anyway, and so yeah, so I'm thinking about thinking a lot about hope, and I actually do see a lot of hope, luckily, gladly, in the process of becoming a dad and kind of settling into that, and what what joy and frustration there is in equal measure in it. Now that my daughter knows all the English, I mean, all the English, and all the English, all of it. We still keep in touch with her Haitian Creole language a little bit, and but she knows all the language. You just never know what's coming. You just hope and trust that there's something there that conveys hope for her to her.
Well, Paul, we know where to find you, so we're gonna have to cut this one short.
Well, if only you could cut my writing down shorter.
But we here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet. So would you be willing to share one more poem with us today?
Sure. Those of you who are listening won't know this, but I titled this "Rain," and then in the parentheses I put "goodish poem."
Goodish.
so we'll see. I'll read this though.
Yes, please.
I scramble from silence. The room has not yet lit. The first sound of the day, my puppy, whose small body tangles in blankets from inside her crate. I stand upright, yet my eyes are still closed. I've never been a fan of morning, early or otherwise. My ears are first to wake. The click, click, click of the long blades plays hide and seek with the chain from our ceiling fan, a mere apostrophe in the sentence of the day, enough of a beat that creates rhythm from which my heart improvises life. I stumble until I hear raindrops hurl themselves toward the skylight in the next room. I listen and lean into the silence until a few words from Joy Harjo sneak in and cradle me. Praise the rain, her poem invites. The phrase swirls around me like a lingered song alive in my ears. The word, praise, startles me into being. Why raise my arms and unfurl my fingers, all to give thanks for streaks of rain across my lenses, Rorschach prints against my shirt, wilted pages of a notebook clutched in my rain-soaked hand. The pound of rain grows stronger as I look at my outline in the mirror. I leave the lights off so I can have a conversation with the rain with no interruption. Why, I ask the rain. There's no answer. I look up and around, safe from the force of rain against my skin. Still, the rain plays on. The melody, the rhythm reaches out. When I arrive at the screen door to the deck in our backyard, I make my way outside in the rain. The drops surround and fill me. Praise the rain, I heard again, and I'm stopped. I lean my head back and my arms out, my fingers fully unfurled. I close my eyes. The question raised in me no longer is to the elements, but to myself. What will you receive now that you are here? I'm not sure. I lean in and linger and listen. The distant song of a robin floats from a nearby tree. Water fills flower pots and surrounds dry patches of grass. Tires glide across pools of water standing in the streets. Water splashes up and over curbs, onto sidewalks, under the paws of dogs who live out their morning liturgy. Faint conversations between a woman and her dog raise a smile on my face. From behind a fence, I answer the question she asks. Why does it have to rain? Because we need to breathe, I said. I couldn't see her, but I imagine her response. The response made her jump a little. What did you say? She asked her dog. For their part, I imagine the dog looked up through the rain and made a motion that suggested they could reserve the philosophical conversation for after they are inside and dry and full and stretched out for their afternoon naps. Praise the rain, I whisper to myself. Praise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say this is more than just goodish. Yeah, I have to say, never being a fan of the mornings. I was hooked from there on. You.
I tell people when they say that we need to have early morning Easter sunrise services, I say, well, if you look at the Greek, the word for morning really means about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, they're coming well after sunrise. It's fine.
Jesus will still be raised at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, this has been a joy. I'm sorry that we've been kind of in and out. I'm coming late. Dave had to leave early. But this has been My Bad Poetry.
Now, go and write some of your own bad poetry. Keep Dave in line if you can.
I try every week.
Oh my gosh, it is a fool's errand, is it not?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a miracle he ever signed up to do this with me. Rhyme free doesn't matter.